And good morning, New Mexico. We are 99.9 FM, M810. It's time once again for this crazy, crazy show, the Rusty Nut Show, heard every Tuesday at 10:30. And of course, we want to thank Gabriel of the Auto Angel, and we want to thank Advanced Auto Parts, proud sponsors of this great show. Advanced Auto Parts there on Siler Road. Gabriel, que paja, brother? How was the week started? How was the weekend? And are you ready to rock
Hey,
and roll?
happy Taco Tuesday, hermano.
I love
Thanks
it,
for
man.
having us. Everything's going good so far this week. How about for you, Patricio?
Que bueno. And I know that la esposa sitting right next to you. That's why you're all quiet and
Careful,
talking
careful
all
what you say. Easy
talking all
now.
shy because más antes you're how come marriage is grand and divorce is 10 grand a la mustard, but now Caroline's right there, and so
Cuídate. Careful.
anyway,
Gotta
good
be
morning, good
careful
morning.
now. Anyway, good morning to you, senor. So, those of you who just tuned in, this is the Rusty Nut Show, and the whole goal of this show is to teach people how to keep their second largest investment, that being your automobile, second, usually only to your home, how to keep it, in front of the tow truck. That's the goal.
Yes, sir. Not on top of the tow truck like you're on the parade. And of course, I like it because it's very educational. We learned quite a bit, and it makes you think. A lot of times, and of course, we're talking about cars that are 12 years and newer, right? From
Yeah,
12
it's
years and
average because
newer.
that's basically the average vehicle on the U.S. roads today is a 12-year-old vehicle, and with that comes, you know, over 150,000 miles, and they're only halfway through as we're learning. More and more of us own cars in our fleets. I even buy cars with 100,000 miles on them and expect to get another 100, which wasn't always the case. So let's jump into it. This shows an attitude of gratitude. So thank you so much to the Gonzalez family for providing shows like this one a voice. I was listening to Esteban Monday. He was interviewing a guy in the music industry, and they were talking about how much it influences northern New Mexico and all its listeners. So shows like that, and like this one where we're able to give back, but that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for your familia, Patricio, and the hard work that your parents and your brothers and everybody laid in. So thank you so much. Thank you to our team here at the Auto Angel with our newest edition, Ernest, and then of course the notorious Norma and Adan and Emilio and Todd and Antonio and David and Vanessa Montoya. Thank you for your hard work. They're the ones that give me the freedom to be on the radio with you every day, or every Tuesday anyway. Real quick, I say hi to my mom because she's my one listener.
Hey, maybe Mary, your wife's right there by you, Caroline. Maybe she'll
Say hi
take
to
the hint
Caroline.
and
Well, we'll say
start.
hi to Caroline because she's here, but she won't be
Maybe
listening.
ask her. I'm asking her. I'm begging her so we could have two listeners to start
Patricia said
listening.
for Caroline to please start listening, so we'll have two listeners. Because Carmela, she's been around him too long. She's not about
Yeah,
to.
she's
She agreed reluctantly. We'll see. We'll
there.
test
You
her.
go. Yeah.
Anyway, there will be a test. And then a real quick hi to my suegra, my other suegra. I got lots of suegras, bro. I'm a lucky
Mhm.
vato. Happy Taco Tuesday. Remember, the show is always powered by Whistleberries, ¿verdad?
That's right. By Whistleberries, AKA frijoles. Frijoles, those of you that grew up on frijoles. So,
And
yeah, I
we
love it.
let's jump right into the red, white, and blue. Thank you to all enlisted servicemen and women, active duty, stateside, abroad, reservists, veterans, and most of all, the families that support these brave men and women. It's because of them that you and I have the freedom to do what we want, Patricio.
Amen. We live in the greatest country ever because of them. And of course, not only because of them, but also because of their families being back home alone, having that empty chair. We appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we have no idea not only what they go through while they're gone, but also when they come back. A lot of them come back with PTSD. A lot of them come back, and that impacts the families as well. So we
Long term,
appreciate
long
what you
term. I
guys
mean, that's a
do.
long, long, ongoing battle
Yes, sir.
for a lot of them,
And
and a lot of the veterans from previous wars, where there be World War II or Vietnam, went even undiagnosed with that PTSD for
mhm.
many years. A friend of mine, Jerry Opiola, may his soul rest in peace. He's a veteran of Vietnam. I worked with him. He was a mechanic, and he I don't think he was ever diagnosed with it, but it definitely affected him, and that's one of the reasons he's resting in peace. Anyway, thank you so much to them. And who else? Who's dear to
Of
you?
course, our police officers, our first responders, firefighters. I got my son-in-law as a firefighter, and also my nephew, and so we appreciate it very much. And I know I don't think we're on the topic yet, but as Gabe always says, if you see a police officer, a firefighter, thank them. It takes nothing for us to thank them and say we appreciate what they do, or even a veteran, somebody in uniform.
There you go. And there's so many of them. There's so many ways to thank them. I mean, Patricia's mentioned it before, maybe offer to pay for a meal or something like that. But I like to think more on the just the everyday side, making good choices with your freedom. Put your basket back where it belongs. Get out of the left lane. Some simple stuff.
Get out of the left lane. A la
The left
master.
lane's for passing. Get out of there, Patricio. Turn your turn signal off, too. All right, let's get into the Azul Gracias. This is a blue collar thank you. This is where we thank people that are in otherwise thankless jobs. And this one was a shout out from Vanessa. She said to thank cafeteria workers inside healthcare facilities such as hospitals and retirement homes, places like that. She said it's a lot of work, and they're very responsible for not only healthy meals, but even the correct diets. Some people can't have sodium, some can't have, whatever it might be. So they got to be careful with how they prepare that food. And they got a lot of people that rely on them. So it's not a job that you call in sick to.
I agree. I agree. And
So
so,
special thanks
and
to them for sure.
like you said, there's a lot to putting the food together. A lot of times we think, and it probably was way back in when, but now people have certain diets, certain things they can eat, certain things they can't. And so we just we appreciate what you guys do. And then of course, dealing with elderly is it's a blessing, but it's also very, very tough. And so
It's a blessing
we
for somebody who has that calling, but
well,
for
that's what I'm
most of
saying.
us,
It's a
yeah,
blessing
for
for
most
people
of
who
us,
do that
man,
because
it's not even.
most people that
Hey, there went Caroline. Did you see her? She
yeah,
went by the
yeah,
camera.
claro. But
She was like a ghost.
most people that do live in these or that work in these facilities, you know what, Gabe, their heart, they have a heart to serve. They have a heart for the elderly. And so we appreciate what they do.
And she even mentioned just in, places like the hospital. I mean, you've been there before as you're a visitor or unexpected emergency or something, and you got family members that have to eat. Well, that hospital cafeteria saves you. It can be a huge, and I'm sure it saves doctors and nurses and everybody from having to leave who can't leave.
Yep.
So big deal there. Good choice to thank
I like it.
them. Good job, Vanessa. Okay, so let's get into one more. We're gonna go Queovo of the day before we get into the automotive side. This is our chance to just say hey to people. You see that little ghost go by behind me there, Patricia?
Yep, I saw. That's the power. That's the power behind you,
Anyway,
bro. You know that.
the Queovo of the day to Eric with an A, the team over at Graphics Guy Printing. Also, thanks for our Christmas cards this year. They were big in getting those out. And a huge shout out to Felipita Ortiz. Thank you so much for trusting our team here at the Auto Angel. A ver, your turn. Dale gas.
Well,
Oh, again, Norma.
we were speaking about veterans. I want to say hi to Joe Ortiz of Ortiz Painted Body. He's a veteran. So I want to say hi to Joe. And of course,
Claro.
there's lots of people. Ranger from Raj. I want to say hi to somebody who's near and dear to me, Ron and Angela Chavez. Think about you guys all the time. And we have missed Norma, and I'm glad to see
All
Norma.
right, here
So
we
I'm going to
go.
send a
So
shout out.
we had to change the time of the whole show and everything just for her. She's so popular and so busy, that we had to change everything just to
Yeah,
suit
que
her.
bárbara.
So, all right,
She better.
back by popular demand, the notorious Norma.
And of course, we want to thank Advanced Auto Parts, proud sponsors of this great show. Advanced Auto Parts on Sidler Road and the Auto Angel. Good people wanting to educate us about our vehicles. Norma, buenos días, le Dios. How are you?
Buenos días a toda la gente bonita de Nuevo México. Se las extrañamos mucho y esperemos que todos estén bien.
¿Dónde andaba? Qué bárbara.
Andaba de parranda.
Muy ocupada.
Muy ocupada.
Ayudando,
Sí.
ayudando a Santo Claus.
Yes, ayudando a Santa Claus.
Sara, girl. Dime la palabra de hoy, el Spanglish word.
Va a ser starter.
Starter. O starter, okay.
Ajá. ¿Sabe usted cómo se dice starter en español?
Un starter para el carro. No sé.
Arrancador.
Arrancador, ok. ¿Cómo se usa en
Arrancador.
un sentence?
Ok, diríamos, el arrancador del carro paró de trabajar.
Paró de trabajar. The starter stopped working.
Yes, correct.
Very
See,
good.
my
Okay, sí.
favorite student.
El más inteligente, el más guapo, el más parecido.
El más
Hijo.
alto, más
Ya, y
popular.
pobrecito Gabriel, y
No,
lo siento mucho.
no tiene
Bueno,
muchos fans. No,
ok, gracias, Norma.
igual, hasta luego, bye.
Spanglish word of the day starter, arrancador. Thank you, Norma, for that. And of course, it's always great to learn about Spanglish words of the day. Arrancador, the starter, which is a starter. And so, Gabriel, I learned it,
Queovo.
baby. We've missed Norma, and it's cool to have her back.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thanks for working with me on getting that to back because she has a long list of fans, and
Yep.
everyone goes, "Hey, what happened to Norma? They don't care what
¿Qué
happened to
pasó con la
Patricio or
Norma? Yeah.
Diego." Pero
Yeah.
anyway, all
Good
right.
stuff.
So let's get into this. Let's see. What kind of cars do cooks drive?
They drive hot rods.
Chevrolet.
Chevrolets. No, that's not funny. No wonder. Now we know. Now we know why Caroline don't listen
They're
to us.
laughing in here, bro. You just
Speaking
can't hear
of,
them.
no, they're not. Speaking
Yeah,
of,
they are. You just
you
can't
got
hear them.
you got one of them
But
buttons when
they're on the payroll though, so they're laughing because
you
they're
got
on the
one of them
payroll.
buttons when kind of like on TV when they tell you to laugh, everybody's supposed to laugh. You know
No,
what I mean?
Carolina said they're laughing at me.
Hey, you can find the rest of that show on 99.9 FM, M810, and of course on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and live on your favorite
Okay, one
community
more.
radio station.
One more.
Dale.
What? This is for your hermano Esteban. What's the difference between Esteban's car and the golf ball?
Mm, Stevan's car doesn't fly like a
He can
golf
drive
ball.
a golf ball farther than he could drive his car.
Oh, that's a good. Now that was funny. Now that one was funny.
Ah, he's
I
gonna
like
take
that.
me up on that one because it's my fault if that's true. Anyway, let's talk
I
about.
hope he listened to our show last week where he was called, and if you did work on his car and he had to take it back, I hope he didn't shoot the messenger. You know what I mean?
We'll see whatever happens with that whole ordeal.
Okay.
Anyway, let's get into. So today's topic is normal characteristics to a vehicle. So there's some things that vehicles are designed or built with, and that are normal. And there's also some that ride that line between is that normal or is it worn out or broken or is that actually a problem? So as technicians in this industry, we're supposed to be all knowledgeable in it, and we're supposed to be professionals and understand and know all these things which are characteristic which aren't. But unfortunately there's so many different makes and models, and it can vary even from one production year to another as to why it is maybe one 99 Ford does this and a 97 never did it, something of that nature. So I'm going to use some examples and then we'll get into why that's important. One of the things that we've had that I experienced myself is there was a customer we had with I think it was a 95 F250, might have been an F350. It's some years ago, but it's that body style that's very sought after truck, 4-door, 1 ton with that 7.3 diesel. I should have lit up your eyes, 7.3
I
diesel.
know. Oh,
So his complaint was that when he would turn, like in a roundabout, the truck wouldn't correct. It wouldn't turn back, or the steering wheel wouldn't return to center, like he felt like it should. And when a customer complains about that, well, you assume as a technician, well, they used to, I guess, or else why would he be complaining about it, right?
right.
Okay. And he's owned it since it was new. It's got 100,000+ miles on it. So we go out, and the first rule in diagnosing a problem for us as professionals is duplicate the complaint. So you get in the truck, you drive it down the road, you make a turn, and sure enough, the steering wheel doesn't return to center. It'll just stay basically almost making circles if you let it. So you had to actually drive this truck. And that's not normal or typical for most cars. Most cars do return to center, at least to a certain amount, right? You go one way, they start to come back. You let go of the wheel and it starts to want to return. And that's built into the steering, into the design of the geometry of the steering. But with this F250, that wasn't the case. It wasn't returning. So again, the mistake that we made at the Auto Angel at that time, this is some years ago, is we listened to the customer, duplicated his complaint, and then started trying to diagnose it. And this is pre-internet. We were doing this with just books and knowledge. And we started off with doing an average inspection. And to cut this story kind of short is we ended up replacing pieces like a steering gear because it was worn out. We did, I think, one or more ball joints, a pitman arm, something of that nature. I don't remember exactly. but we made parts replacements and corrected pieces that were obviously worn out but didn't fix his problem. So we were taking hard-earned money from him. We were putting time and effort into a problem we couldn't fix. And ultimately, at the time, what I ended up doing was getting another client who had a truck exactly the same. It was Caliente Construction. So we'll shoot a shout out to Caliente. He had some trucks handy, and he was driving his. And I asked him while he was driving it to try that, and he said, "No, it doesn't return." And then by then, I kind of had a gut feeling that was the case. So he came by. He was our neighbor, kind of, and we drove his truck, and sure enough, it was normal. And he was gracious enough to allow that customer to drive his truck, and they were identical. And that really, at that point, that customer really wasn't buying the fact that that was normal, because he could have sworn that it wasn't that way. And that's the whole point of this story right now is if you look for something bad in something, you're gonna always see that. If you try to tunnel vision and go look, it doesn't do it, and that's the case in a lot of, it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad or wrong. So what I'm trying to get at this story is get a second opinion in some cases. So if the shop that you took it to says, well, I think it needs this, and your first question would be, are you sure it's going to fix my problem? So talk to me there, Patricio. What'd you hear me say?
Are you sure it's going to fix my problem? So you want to get a second opinion because...
Well, maybe not a second opinion yet. So I call you Patricio. I tell you your truck needs a steering gear. Your question should be, so when I pick it up with a steering gear replaced for millions of dollars, it's going to return to center, right?
Is that going to fix the problem?
There you go. And that's this whole point of the show. Remember, we're not promoting the Auto Angel. We're not promoting, other than our sponsors, but we're really trying to teach people how to protect themselves as consumers in this industry. And that's what I'm looking for, is to educate people, is that the question you have for that shop is, okay, I took it to you for that problem, and I want to know that if I show up when you tell me it's done and I pay my bill, that problem's going to be gone.
Right. And I think it's a way to communicate too, as far as making sure that, when people go into a place, a business, an automotive place, and I think they have an expectation, and it could be they trust the person that they're talking to quite a bit. And so if you say it needs whatever you said, a steering pin or whatever it is, I think that expectation is in their mind, thinking, okay, well, that's going to take care of the problem. But I think, like you said, ask those questions. Is this going to take care of the problem?
Yeah, I have no problem with paying you to fix it, as long as it's going to fix what I'm going for. And in some cases, I think that question right there really changes the answer of the person on the phone, because now all of a sudden you're basically asking them to almost promise you or to guarantee it. And that's when, if they're not positive, they'll say, well, they might be honest with you. No, I said it earlier, this is a repair attempt, or we have to start with this and then we'll reevaluate. And if you agree to that, that's one thing. But making sure that you understand what you're agreeing to before paying for it is critical. It's different when and it's even not that different. And let's say something like a no start, it needs a battery. Okay, well, but once you put the battery in, is it going to start? And they might tell you, no, it'll crank. Whether it starts or not, we'll see. And that would be a safe answer. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't ask those kind of questions. And those questions get more important the more expensive the repair, the more intermittent the problem. So remember, intermittent means what?
Well, intermittent, of course, is in between from the time they take it there to the time you get back to your vehicle.
Come on.
No. In between, brother. It's right in between. You know what's going to happen.
Random. Intermittent is random in our industry. So when we talk about it,
I don't know where you went to school, bro.
Like your troquita. Remember, you figured it out on your truck. So it was at the car wash. It didn't want to start. Remember?
Yeah, I remember. And
then it was at Tortilla Flats or something and didn't want to start. And then you figured out what it had to do with, but that was intermittently. 5 out of 10 times it start fine. 7 or 10 out of 10, something like that. So those are what we discuss as intermittent. So the more intermittent it is, the more that question really has to come up for you consumers listening is, okay, if I buy that repair, is it going to fix my problem? Are you sure? And if you're not sure, be honest. Let's discuss it now. What other choices do I have, right?
Right. And I think that comes in with finding somebody that you can trust, somebody that you is going to be honest with you. And of course, somebody that you can feel comfortable asking that question. Cause I know a lot of people, probably I'm speaking for myself, might not feel comfortable saying, hey, is this going to fix the problem? And so, but I
But see
think
how clean that was right there?
it's
That
good
was
that you're
easy.
bringing it up.
Yeah, it wasn't you saying, "Are you sure?" It was you just simply saying that, okay, so if I buy the battery, it's going to start. If I buy the steering gear, it's going to return to center, something like that.
Right.
So, back to that truck, that was characteristic to that truck. And ever since then, every time I drive one of those, I laugh because, yeah, you pretty much have to steer it back. Those of you driving those big trucks right now, you'll notice it. Yeah, it'll return a little, but not like your car.
Are you
And
saying
that's all
mainly?
built into that steering angle. Go ahead.
Are you saying maybe with the F-250s,
Oh, just the larger trucks in
larger
general,
trucks?
the
Yeah.
caster that they have, the camber that's built into it, the included angle. There's all kinds of. We don't try to get too technical. And again, that's designed into the truck. I mean, you get in a Jeep Wrangler and you go down the freeway. Do you expect there to be a lot of wind noise?
Oh yeah.
Well, it's square. Of course, it's
And then
got.
if you eat whistleberries, a la master.
And the whistle's coming from the inside, not from the outside.
There you go, brother.
All right, so let's get into
Okay.
another one. This is really common. Brakes. The most common complaint is shaking when applying. That's been an ongoing problem. It's been getting worse and worse. So let's throw that out there real quick. You're driving down the road. You go to apply the brakes, and the steering wheel shakes in your hands, or the brake pedal shakes when you're applying the brakes.
Oh, I got the diagnosis right away.
So that's a a ver, let's see.
Well, I'm going to tell the customer that, it could be a couple of things. It could be an alignment, it could be your brakes, or it could be your rotors, but it's something that we have to look into. And then once we can, or it could be the,
Okay, everybody, don't change the dial. Don't turn it off.
at least I sounded
We
good.
have
Kenneth.
a question about like where to buy a good breakfast burrito, call Patricio. But if it has to do with breaks, maybe not. All
Did
right,
it
so
sound
real
good
quick,
at least?
you could have fooled somebody who doesn't listen to this show.
Okay.
Anyway, the most common complaint is that brake pulsation, usually with brakes, and it's getting more and more common. And the reality is, brakes end up warping rotors, and the warping in the rotors usually comes from heat, and that heat comes from stopping a 6,000 plus pound car with friction, right? The whole point of this is there is some of that's designed into the car. It's not the auto repair facility's fault. It's not the dealership's fault that's making the repairs to that. Is that they designed a 6,000, 7,000, in some cases 8 to 10,000 pound vehicle, and they made the brakes very lightweight because we're trying to get fuel economy. Remember, we're making things lighter. We don't have spares in cars. We have aluminum wheels. We have, different things, lots of plastics to get better fuel economy. And one of the places that we save money is by saving weight, is making rotors thinner, which makes them far more susceptible to warping. So that's characteristic to the car. No matter where you buy those brakes, the problem is going to return because you're using them to stop. Some tips that you guys, those of you, let's say, you're driving that Duramax and you're going up and down to Los Alamos to work every day. There's a lot of guys that do that. Try and use the transmission to slow you down. Put it in drive, get out of overdrive. Look at it as if it was only going to, upshift to fourth gear coming down, save some brakes. That goes even for you people driving cars. You're going up and down to the ski basin even. Using the transmission to slow the car down will save on some brakes. So some of that is characteristic to the car and is not at fault of the shop making the repairs. However, the difference will be is if you buy a good quality brake job, we're going to say that it should last as long as the first set. How's that for at least a minimum?
That's exactly what I was trying to lead up to until you rudely interrupted me. Anyway, that was a good answer. And that's why Gabriel is the rusty nut himself. You know what I mean? But I have a question for you. I want to ask you. I want to ask you it
Dale.
towards the end of the show. But I want to ask you. I've heard of vehicles. I've heard of vehicles going down the highway, and I think it's mainly with trucks, where all of a sudden it'll start shaking.
The death wobble.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a whole
and
other
I don't want to go off
that one. You could
your
Google
agenda.
the death wobble, and that thing's terrible.
So maybe next time we can talk about that.
Okay.
or that could
Send
be
me
a
a special
part of
request in the mail or something.
that. Could be
Check with Caroline, see if she lets me talk to you about that.
that could be. I think Caroline keeps walking back and forth because she's enjoying the show.
Yeah, she wants to come out on, she wants to be famous too, like us.
Oh
That's why she keeps walking behind the camera.
yeah. Anyway, we got 4 minutes left,
All
and
right, so
so
let's get into another one.
save me 2 minutes. I got to ask you
Well,
a
this is
question.
another one that we get a lot of us in our industry. Ranger, we didn't say I had a Ranger. I didn't. And
I
Lee
did.
Garcia might get some of these questions. I know all the shops that deal with cars in general will get this example of a complaint is customers want to tune up. And no one knows what that word is. We've talked about this before. There's no definition for it. And usually one of the reasons they're going to say is it lacks power. The hard part with lacking power is that's not easy to measure in most shops. There are tools called dynamometers, but they're few and far between in shops. There's maybe one or two in Santa Fe, if that, where the car can be tested for horsepower and torque at the wheels while it's in a building. And it would be a very expensive test to run. And most of us don't need that kind of diagnostics, right? Most people that purchase a dyno runner for racing. So real quick, lack of power. That's the one that really people want to purchase repairs for, but usually they end up buying spark plugs or an air filter or a fuel filter or gas additive or something like that. And realistically, it didn't fix anything. Sometimes they leave with a placebo effect because they asked you to buy certain spark plugs and you do it and they say, oh, it runs way better. But more often than not, a better cure would be, take that 500 pounds of junk out of that trunk. People don't realize that the vehicle's ability to have power is to make it lighter. And a lot of us are carrying around way too much. And it would be a bigger improvement on fuel economy, a bigger improvement on power is going to be get rid of some of that stuff. But back to the purpose of today's show was this characteristic to a car. If you're used to, if your other car is a V6 and it's a late model with low miles and you get back into the old reliable 4-cylinder, it doesn't have the power that it used to. Well, that's not abnormal. That's just characteristic of a car. You're not going to turn your 4-cylinder, no matter how many spark plugs you put in it, into a V6.
Right. And you're right. I meant, I got that 7.3 and it doesn't have the same power that I had when it first was brand new, but it still has that power. You know what I mean? And so I agree with you 100%. Maybe it could be because that load that I have in the back,
Yeah, all that garbage you don't want to throw
all that
away.
garbage I don't want to take out, man. Okay. You have my question.
Go for it. Yeah.
So and this kind of has to do with, the vehicles and stuff like this. You mentioned the tune-up and how things in the automotive industry have changed, technology. Did you ever, when you started, was it 33, 34 years ago?
Más o menos, yeah.
Did you ever dream or hear that cars would be run off of computers and things like that the way they are?
Oh yeah, back then it was
Really?
already, well, it was the 80s, so computers were already a word that was accepted in our industry and in our homes. So that didn't surprise me. I think what you might be surprised at, or what you might be leading to, is that a large amount of vehicles are repaired with downloads now, computer downloads. So like you might get an update on your Windows or you might get an update on your phone. Well, there's a lot of vehicle repairs, especially at the warranty level, where the repairs are actually handled with a computer download where no physical parts. It's literally just information updated in a computer.
Is there a fee for that too?
Well, in most of them, yes, but not when they're still covered. Under
Okay,
warranty,
cool.
it's usually a repair. So I hope that kind of touched on what you're trying to get at, is how much
Well,
it's changed in the 32 years that I've been striving to keep cars in front of the tow truck.
It seems like nowadays you guys and your staff would have to go to class to learn about computers and newer technology and stuff like that, instead of learning how to hold a wrench or a screwdriver or something.
Yeah, but what's come across too, though, is COVID stopped the training that we used to be able to get. So we used to have in-house training that we would go to. We've done some in-house here. I'm sure other shops do it differently, but the internet has been huge at us being able to keep up because of the training that we purchase. We can do online. It's not the same as having an instructor. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in.
Amen, brother. You can, of course, catch us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Live, and of course on 99.9 FM, MA10 every Tuesday, 10:30. I want to thank Gabriel and La Familia there at the Auto Angel. Good people, Advanced Auto Parts. God bless you guys. You guys have a great day and a good rest of the week.
Hey, do we have any more time? Or are we done?
Let's see. Go for it real quick.
We're
Don't forget about we got a minute.
Yeah, I can't forget.
No, we got it. We're live still. A minute.
Right,
We got to.
so
Don't forget the gifts.
Well, we
the
were doing the
Christmas.
toy drive, and it just turns out I got a notice from Ernesto Rodriguez that kids' holiday party got canceled because of COVID.
Okay.
So we're still collecting some toys, and I got a hold of your son-in-law at the fire department. He's going to help me make sure that they get to where they belong. That
Amen,
just
brother.
happened yesterday. I got a hold of him on Monday.
Give us the address there at the Auto Angel.
3140 Cerritos Road.
God bless you guys. Bubba, thanks for being the great producer you are. Back to the programming right here on 99.9 FM, M810.